do from the outside looking in, because we're not those people. Because again, like you said, I don't get nervous about posting stuff. It's just instilling confidence within that person and encouraging that person or that company to put content out. That's really all you can do, because they're not going to put it out until they're ready to put it out, no matter what type of encouragement or we give them. So
yeah, it's very true. I want to go back to like the digital footprint, but and I want to like break it down, because even this is like a new term for me, where I'm just now hearing about this on the internet. And I think that, something that we've always said is not that you have to be careful what you post, but you have to be really intentional with what you post. I feel like that's something that you've been saying it more than I have since the beginning. But what is an active digital footprint? And it's the things that you choose to share, like social media posts, comments, reviews, filling out forms, or signing up for emails. So all of that is your digital footprint. And so I take it back to why, and again, it goes back to sometimes we are our biggest critic, but yeah, why are we sometimes so critical of ourselves to put ourselves on camera out there, when sometimes we're sharing information through forms such as our address or social security, all this information that could be leaked. But again, I think sometimes it is because of the lack of confidence. And I was even thinking about that. I'm like, well, how do you gain that confidence when you don't like certain things about yourself?
Well, the way you can gain that confidence is being successful at posting, being successful at doing it consistently, where you don't have to, where you at a certain point, you don't really care too much about what people say. But that comes with the consistency of doing the same thing over and over again, which builds your confidence. And then once you have confidence in yourself, you can easily do that task, because you're not worried about what other people have to say about you.
Yeah. Yeah, and it goes back to something that we always say, that you grow confidence through the repetition of doing what you said you were going to do. And I think sometimes it can be a little bit nerve-wracking when we're looking at ourselves on camera and we're like, oh, we haven't kept up those gym goals that we said that we were going to do. But it takes me back, because I don't want to get off topic, but it takes me back to like your digital footprint is like, if you want to put yourself out there, if you choose to put yourself out there, you also have to realize that you may not like every single angle, you may not like some angles, but at the same time, you can choose what you want to put out there. And it's also an investment for your long-term like growth or just you. Because I think sometimes too, what I've realized is that some people don't even want to start their digital footprint, or it goes back to that fear, right? Like fear of what are people going to say? What are people going to, how are people going to judge me? It's like, and it takes me back to that reel, because in the reel they were talking about how to keep a clean digital footprint. And in my head, I'm thinking like, why are you so worried about keeping a clean digital footprint? It's almost like in real life, where we're trying to be like this perfect person, or never show any insecurities, or never show that we're imperfect. And I'm always the first one to laugh at myself, because I have a lot of cringy, I have a lot of, what do you call it? Pisces moments. I have a lot of like just silly, dumb moments. And something that's really interesting now that I bring up this topic, I was watching a podcast recently, and they were saying how you do want to almost make fun of yourself, or like make fun of yourself in a like witty way, like, oh well, like at the end of the day, what's gonna happen? You're not gonna die, you're still gonna be alive, and the next day is gonna come around. So going back to your digital footprint, like I think that sometimes we do get in our own head, and it doesn't always have to be perfect, because I think in social media sometimes people don't want to share things because they think like, oh, what if our opinions change 3 years from now, or 2 years from now, or 5 years from now? But I mean, that's human beings. We're always going to change and evolve, and our thoughts are going to change. So going back to like the passive digital footprint, passive digital footprint can look like, data collected about you through websites, through cookies, through ads. And again, I bring this up because obviously it's harder said than done. But I think that if you're worrying about your digital footprint and keeping it clean, then that's always going to hold you back from showing up.
Well, I mean, you don't need to show up on social media if you work for somebody. If you work a 9 to 5 or anything like that, you don't have to show up. You're only showing up on social media because you want to be seen. So people don't want to.
I don't agree. I think that you can still work on a 9 to 5 and show up. How would they?
Yeah, but why?
Start their business.
Why would I? But I'm working 9 to 5. I don't want to be a business owner.
What if they're okay? You're saying you don't want to be a business owner.
Yeah, you got to look at the other side of what we used to be, or what we wasn't, or what we don't want to be. A lot of people don't want to be business owners. A lot of people don't want to be putting themselves out there. So that's an important way to protect your digital footprint, because you worried about your job and your family. You don't need to be on social media. You're just there for entertainment. So none of that stuff will matter to you anyway. But for us to get exposure to our business and exposure to other people and entrepreneurs and business owners and stuff like that, it just boils down to what you want to showcase to your audience and what you're trying to sell to your audience at the end of the day. And we control what we put out.
Yeah, but I also don't think that just because you don't have a business isn't a reason why you shouldn't put yourself out there. Because I've talked to a lot of people that they're like, oh, I want to start this business. They have like an idea. They have a little hustle or whatever it is. And I think a lot of the times they get held back by their own families or what other people are going to help. Again, it goes back to the fear of what people are going to say. And I say that to say that if you're someone that has a side hustle, if you're someone that is maybe thinking about starting a small business or an entrepreneur, your digital footprint doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, I think you guys have seen it through us. Like, sometimes I go back and look at my YouTube or some of my videos from the beginning, and I'm like, that was so bad. It was so awful. I could barely talk. I wasn't even making any sense. I was saying like. And over time, you just get better, and obviously you grow. But it takes me back to even think about some of your first YouTube videos. Remember when you were starting to make long form content, and you were like, I was talking too much, I was rambling, and now look how much better you've gotten. So I know it's harder said than done, but I'm just curious, and maybe you guys can drop it down in the comments, like how have you guys overcome that of just putting the content out there and not being afraid of what people are going to say. I think it gets easier over time, but I definitely experienced that more at the beginning.
Matt, I need your help growing my social media audience.
All right, guys, if you need help growing your social media audience, make sure you text 602-390-7002. Once again, it's 602-390-7002. Yeah, I mean, if I didn't have this business, I wouldn't be on social media. I think social media is a complete distraction. I think it deters people away from doing what they really need to be doing in life. I think social media is a cancer. It can be a serious cancer, and I think it's not meant for everybody to be on. I feel like if you don't have a business, and if you're not trying to create exposure for yourself or anything like that, you do not need to be on social media. I've seen it just completely ruin people. But
I think it's also the person.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that.
That's what it boils down to.
I wouldn't say that because I feel the complete opposite, where I feel like, correct, not everyone should be on social media, but I also feel like social media is such a big opportunity nowadays. Social media has created more opportunities for us than ever before. I wouldn't have my job if it wasn't for social media. And I think it all depends on the person, how you use it.
Yeah.
So I think that, correct, if you are building a brand, if you are building exposure and you have a business, you should build it. But also don't get discouraged if you don't have a business, because I just think about myself, and even before I had a business, I had no idea what to post. I didn't even know what a content creator was. I was actually that person making fun of content creators. And then now look at me 5 years later, I became a content creator. So
because you found a purpose.
Because I found a purpose within it. Correct. It can be distracting, and it can be like a tool where
it's not helpful.
Where you can it's not helpful, and you can start to compare yourself, but at the end of the day, I think it's all perspective in the person. Because the right person will create opportunities out of it, and the wrong person will look at it
use it as a distraction.
And use it as a distraction or just as a void. Because I've heard this a lot, as a way to escape reality.
1,000%.
But then again, I'm like, if you think about it, because social media has just given me so much purpose to get to know myself even better, to see myself. Like, something that I've heard from creators a lot too is that they actually are very thankful for social media, because think about it, if you weren't on social media...
That's not good, by the way.
If you weren't on social media, how many times would you actually look at yourself on camera? How many times would you actually see what you look like, what you talk, how you communicate?
What? But for what though?
So you can get better in life.
Yeah, but you shouldn't be finding yourself on Instagram. You should be finding yourself in real life, because Instagram is not real. these social media
What do you mean?
platforms. And
Oh, okay.
You said
he's
you
going on that path.
You said
Yeah.
you're finding yourself, and you should. That's not a good thing.
I don't think I'm saying like, oh, you rely on social